Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Major, I would say, development and escalation of rhetoric, I would say, but as the Russians are consistent, I tend to be a little bit, how should I put it, agitated about it or concerned about it. What happened? Russia threatens countries that provide Ukraine with weapons. So they threaten those countries with destruction. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. And here is an article coming from Associated Press, and the title is Russia Official Warns West of Destruction for Arming Ukraine. And if you go down here, it's from Associated Press, and it's from today, January 22nd, 2023, Kiev, the Speaker of the lower house of Russia's parliament, warned Sunday that countries supplying Ukraine with more powerful weapons risked their own destruction, a message that followed new pledge of armored vehicles, air defense systems, and other equipment, but not the battle tanks Kiev requested. Ukraine supporters pledged billions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine on Friday, though the new commitments were overshadowed by defense leaders failing at an international meeting in Ramstein Air Base in Germany to agree on Ukraine's urgent request for German-made Leopard 2 battle tanks. So State Duma Chairman Vyacheslav Volodin said that governments giving more powerful weapons to Ukraine could cause a global tragedy that would destroy their countries. And I'm quoting again, supplies of offensive weapons to the Kiev regime would lead to a global catastrophe. He said if Washington and NATO supply weapons that would be used for striking peaceful cities and making attempts to seize our territory as they threatened to do, it would trigger a retaliation with more powerful weapons. Wow, so this is what happened there. So after reading that, all I can tell you that these guys are serious about how should I put it, escalating the conflict. Well, what do you think would happen? Would you destroy those countries that supply Ukraine with weapons? Do you think those countries will not try to retaliate? That would be a hot war between NATO and Russia. Hot war. I don't know right now what's going on in Ukraine, but I suspect that there are, it's my suspicion, that they are not only foreign legionnaires, that supposedly are volunteers, but could be other fighters who belong to regular armies coming from various NATO states that sign a little contract with the International Legion, volunteering army, whatever, for Ukraine, and actually they're still there. They're just covered as fighting over there. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a way to bypass, I would say, the fact that, hey, we don't have boots on the ground. Yes, you might have. You already have military instructors and advisors, they're called, military advisors, and you have inspectors. These NATO countries that are supporting Ukraine, all but being in there with military, not personnel, because I think advisors are over there, and maybe some planners too. The idea here is this: the Russians are becoming more and more, I would say, fed up with this arming of Ukraine, especially when the Western countries will provide Ukraine with more sophisticated weapons. They're talking about tanks. They're talking about not regular tanks like T-72s, the Soviet ones, Russian ones, but they're talking about providing the German Leopard 2, which the Germans are trying not to provide them yet, or allow Poland or other countries to provide Ukraine with Leopard 2. You have Leclerc's tanks, you have the Challenger, I think Challenger 2 tanks are the British ones, the other was Leclerc's, were French one, but I didn't hear United States providing Abrams one. So it seems like they are, they being the Americans, are pushing everybody else to expose themselves to Russia. But remember, they share a landmass. The continent expands into Asia, right? The continent of Europe. So the Russians could easily, let's say, invade with the ground forces. The Germans, the whatever. Not the Americans, though. The Americans will help the Germans fight the Russians, will help the French fight the Russians, but it's not going to happen again on the territory of the United States of America. So the Europeans will again screw themselves, like in the First World War and the Second World War. And who's going to end up victorious? United States, untouched, unscattered. Good for them. But on the other hand, you push these guys to expose themselves. So I don't know if the Europeans are eager to bite that bullet. Poland is okay with that. Poland and the Baltic states are very, very verbal regarding, exposing themselves because, they think that if that's going to happen, like the Russians invading, which I don't see that happening, invading with troops. I think more likely, if that would happen, I hope it doesn't, the Russians will have less patience for the Poles than I would say they had for the Ukrainians, and it would just probably increase their bombardments and will use different kind of weapons. I hope that doesn't happen. But knowing the big love between the Poles, for instance, and the Russians, I don't think the Russians will have patience with the Poles. Unfortunately, I don't think the Russians will be involved in hitting military targets much, but who knows? Things could happen because, you have so many variables and so many generals, many armies, people with decisions making powers. So that means you can't really control each and every crazy over there. All sides, I'm talking. And one accident can, link to another, result in other and another, and have very tragic consequences for all of us. Now, in this case, I don't think the Western countries or Poland will care what this guy said, the Russian guy said, because that's the way they operate. They will say, well, it's macho talking, or, they're not going to do anything, or just do it. And then the ball is back in the Russian camp, and that's a bad way of looking at things because the Russians are very, as I said, consistent. And it's not because I know the Russians, per se, I'm an expert in that, but only if you watched Russians' decisions and actions, and you see that there's a direct connection between what they say and what they do, and they're very consistent in doing that. So if they say we're going to do this, they're probably going to do that. This guy is not in the Russian government, so that should be taken into consideration, correct? So I think that being in a state Duma, it's a long way to having Putin make this kind of decision. But maybe he's got some influence on some influential people. Well, I don't think this rhetoric will prevent the Americans and whoever else provide Ukraine with weapons. But definitely that's a threat, and definitely that's a big escalation or possible escalation of the whole thing. I'm glad now I can provide you with the articles whenever I feel like, and that's a very good thing. Like I can post it and read it together with you, like I've been doing in this video. And this is just by pushing a few buttons here. There you have it. You have the article here, and then you're going to have me. Well, I'm going to improve this kind of technological abilities and meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.